Welcome to Toss Titles Down Dynasty with your hosts at Life in the Pen and with me, as usual, my co-host at FF Doormat. How are you today, Mr. Hatton?
Mate, I'm doing wonderfully well, as usual. Good to be talking a bit of football with you. Week 8 already. Just got the tissues handy after all those injuries. Bit of a sad week. But other than that, going pretty well. How about you, mate? What's happening in your world?
I'm here. What more could you want? Getting through the day, just putting one foot in front of the other one, one at a time, mate. It's been that kind of week.
One pant leg on at a time. Yeah, mate. Me too. Had a few little dramas, little fights put out. So, love that.
Work has been crazy busy.
Yeah.
But, we're not here to talk about work. We're here to talk about football. And
thank God we're not here to talk about work.
The podcast will go for 6 hours of us just whinging.
Yeah. Whinging.
Just injuries, man. Just injuries.
Big injuries too, right? Like, we're not talking about some cornerback. I mean, cornerbacks got injured, but we're not just talking about some fringe players, right? Brees Hall, just ascended to that RB1 conversation. I think you had him just in front of JT. I said, maybe still JT, and then it's pretty clear.
He was my 101 before that injury.
Yeah, he was mine too. It was like him or JT. It was 50-50. I think it was on
there. He was my he was my RB 101 before that injury. I would not take a running back in the first round of a dynasty startup. It's just not the way I play.
Yeah, no, we're both the same there. You'd have to be maybe if you missed on a couple of young QBs, might force your hand, but generally we're going with the Mahomes or the Herberts or whatnot. But yeah, definitely was the RB. He was the RB1, and he's still in that conversation really in terms of value and ceiling. So yeah, he was injured. Dobbins injured as well. Michael Williams, Debo, Tannehill, just J.C. Jackson, on and on. We sort of were pretty light on. I think early on the injuries weren't too bad, but really week 7 just put our pants down and gave us a bit of a spanking, didn't it, with these injuries?
Oh, look, spanking. I just, it changed the landscape of teams, of weeks, of, whether you're going for it, whether you're not going for it, or whether you're going to make a trade where long term you lose potentially a decent amount of value.
Yeah, look, I think you've got a bit of value insulation with Hall. I think just because he's so young and he looks so good. At least we got to see him for a couple. With Lance, we didn't really get to see him at all. If he had been injured after week 2, Hall, then you'd still have question marks, right? Because he hadn't exploded yet. So at least you got that sort of value insulation. But yeah, I think I was close to trade him to you in our Devry League for Cole Pitts, Hawkinson Pitts for Hall and Burks. But I can't remember now. But yeah, look, I was really close, and obviously that's just fantasy sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you don't. But this year, it's been a real weird year for running backs, hasn't it? You just can't find one. Akers is not starting. Harris is banged up and looks like he's the backup now. DK, CEH is even worse than he was before. I suppose we did get the good news of the Robertson trade. That was good for running back. Now for people that don't play zero RB, well, you got him if you play zero RB. It's probably how you got him. But there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with James Robinson getting traded for a 6, because not only did it free up James Robinson, right, it freed up our man ETN.
Yeah, huge for ATN. I can't tell you where I rank him right now with my dynasty running backs. He'd be pretty high. I literally just traded ATN and a late 2023 second for Brees Hall in a league I'm not competing. It feels like it's like going to go on my gravestone right now. A league I'm not competing. Look, I had a lot of teams that I was honest with this year, or middle of the table, and I decided to go for the 23 picks. Or I had a couple of, I think I only did one or two startups this year, and I drafted Trey Lance. I was high on Trey Lance and Javonte Williams as well. And obviously that hasn't worked out well for me, just due to injuries.
Yeah, it's if you load it up on those picks, it's not too bad because it's all about the timing, right? Like the 21 class, there was so much hype about, and the 23 class even more. I feel like. So from that perspective, you've timed it well. If you're going to do it, it's a good time to do it. Who knows what you'll get for Bijan if he comes out. I'm sure he'll be out. But yeah, it's a good time to do it. Like never want to rebuild, but it is fun.
Love rebuilding.
Winning's fun too. Winning's fun too, so I've heard. But rebuilding is good. They tell me winning's fun. I don't know.
You won like several ships last year, mate. Don't be humble.
Couple.
Don't be humble.
They skill to get there, luck to win it.
I would. You got to be fortunate, right?
You got to.
It's all about making the playoffs, and then once you make the playoffs, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
Still remember that Kraken team that I had that was undefeated all season and lost in the playoffs. Fuck. Still salty about that.
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I think they scored about 6,000 points to steal them. So it's just luck of the draw. And I've had the same thing happen. I think one league I was clearly had the best team. I think I was undefeated or close to. Had the most points for, most potential points and everything. And I was bailed out the second week. Just happens. So yeah, luck to win it, but skill to get there. So all you want to do is put yourself in that conversation.
100%. 100%. But if Brees, it makes you sad, right? Like Brees Hall was just balling out, and now
he's looking so good. And for the Jets too, I know they got James Robinson, but he was just special. Brees Hall, it could be a real game winner. And they are sneakily good, right? Like they could be the number one seed in the East, and maybe the number one seed in the AFC if they win next week, and somehow the Bills lose against the Packers, which is not going to be an easy game, right? They've lost 3 in a row. Maybe they're going to be desperate. The Bills could take their foot off a little bit. I doubt it, but who would have seen the Jets be the number one seed? That's at least in the AFC East anyway. It's a bit of a turn up. So some good news for them. They need a bit of good news, that franchise, and same as the Giants too, right? They could be the one seed too. If Philly lose, they're 6-1. Philly 6-0. So if Philly lose and Giants win. 2 New York teams.
Man,
playing ugly football but winning. Yeah.
What do you do if you're New York with Daniel Jones? What do you do? Like, you don't want to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to. I guess if they're winning like this, and they are winning, you probably just franchise tag him. Just give him the tag and make him run it back. Build that line, and then go again. That's what I'll be doing. I think Dable's done really well. I think we're saying in the offseason that the biggest benefit they'll have is Joe Judge leaving, and it proved to be right. I didn't predict this sort of start, but it's they really love playing for him, haven't they? So
You've gone from
That's
one of the
what I mean.
worst coaches in the league to maybe one of the best.
He's got to be there for coach of the year, hasn't he? Him or Sailor and Robert Salah. But yeah, I think I'd tag him and build the O line. What about you, mate? What would you? I mean, it depends who you can get on the board, right? If there's if Stroud's there or Brusher,
I'd draft a rookie. I'd move up to get one if I had to. I'd trade my
depends what you're picking.
first.
Like 6 and 1.
Even like
I don't know who's going to be there.
I think our friend of the network. I'm not going to sit there and say friend of the show, but friend of the network, Shane P. Hallam, of draftoutcount.com and Devi Marketplace had Hendon Hooker going to the Giants in his most recent 23 mock draft.
Very smart man, Mr. Hallam.
He's smart, handsome, all those things.
I think he appeared on Fantasy Receipts this week. They got him for something, but it's just a bit of fun. I think he was the only one on James Robinson when he was free. He called that, so I think he's forever in credit when you have something like that to your name, calling James Robinson as an ad before he went large. But that's probably a smart move, I guess. Really,
Yeah, he had Hendon Hooker going 24 to the New York Giants, and if I was the Giants, I would do that all day over keeping Daniel Jones at the franchise tag.
Depends what's available, I guess, or what you can move up. They're a smart organization. They drafted well last year. They moved on from Judge.
Are they really?
Oh, they got some good owners, right? They got some pretty good owners. Mara family, they're pretty. As much as it pains me to say it, they did beat the Pats back-to-backs. Not back-to-back, but 2 Super Bowl matches up. But, yeah, I think they're a pretty solid organization. Good coach. So, and if you're a fan, right, you probably want to get that young quarterback because if you're winning with Jones, imagine what you can do if you do hit that QB, right? But, yeah, whatever it is,
It's huge.
Don't do a Russell Wilson type trade, right? Like, man, if the Broncos could redo that trade, wow. If you had a flux capacitor and just go back in time, you'd thanks, but no thanks. We'll give you a bag of twisties for him. Half eaten.
This is terrible.
Could be injuries.
Dobbins.
Could be injuries.
We got Dobbins. Dobbins is a favourite of the show. He's out.
Yeah, he's one of our favourites. I loved him coming out. I think I was talking about him in Scott Fishbowl. You're a bit more hesitant with his injury, so he might take a bit more time to come back. I thought he was Superman, and he would just fly back on. He looked good for that one game. I think he scored 20-odd points and a couple of touchdowns. And it is just a scope, right? They're saying to clear up some scar tissue. Never like to see it, though. They're sort of downplaying it, but it is just a worry for a guy that hasn't had much luck on the injury side. I listened to Pro Football Doc. He said, look, it's still the things that he's done is still incredible. He's ahead of the timeline they forecast for him, and it's still incredible recovery. So maybe that gives you some comfort. But
it might give you some comfort in relation to his recovery. It's got to give you some pause in relation to Javonte Williams' recovery, who had the same injury, right? The ACL and the PCL, and he suffered it in the middle, basically almost week 5, week 4,
4 or 5. Yeah.
Look, quarter of the way into the season. So then, if that's the timeline, you're not looking at Javonte returning until the middle of next season.
Yeah, it's good to dampen those expectations. Not everyone's Adrian Peterson. So I think I learned that lesson a little bit with Dobbins. I sort of fobbed it off. I did the same with Akers. I thought Akers would be fine too. And he did look all right, but not so much now. But at least he can get on the field.
I never thought Akers would be fine after the Achilles injury.
I should have listened to that too. I do remember you singing that song as well. Jury's still out there. He could be sweet if he gets traded, but yeah, just pump the brakes a bit, I guess, on these. It's always good to bet on the player, right? We like these players to come back and ball out, but just pump the brakes there a little bit. It's not always a given. But then to see to see the Gus bus come and score 2 touchdowns and have a big game. You know, it was great for him, but at the same time, it could have been Dobbins. So if he comes back this year, you know, maybe it's just a clean up. Maybe it's all good and he gets a bit of time in towards the end of the year. But if you're not competing, you probably just give him the year off, wouldn't you? If you're the Ravens, you got nothing to win.
I'd be shocked if the Ravens didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, they probably will. They probably will, and then you're playing him, right? If you take the field, you're playing him.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know,
because imagine, I mean, he'll be rested. If he's healthy, he'll be rested. He could be an absolute monster. Oh, we got a comment from Nino.
Thanks, Nino. I worked really hard on that overlay. Took me.
You didn't do anything. I did all of it. Okay. And hey, Nino, if you want an overlay, hit me up because I got your back.
It was all me, but I'll let you take the credit.
I'll make you one because I'm your friend. Hatton's not your friend. You want to make it?
No, I did this one. I'll let you do the next one.
A kid fucked. Are we allowed to say that?
It was all Benny. It was all Benny. Love you too, Nino.
Love you too. Back to the topic at hand. What was the topic at hand? I forgot.
I was talking about Dobbins and if the Ravens are going to make the playoffs and how that it looks like if they are contending, he'll hopefully come back and get a bit of value. But yeah, I've held him in a couple of leagues, waiting for him to come back, and then to see him come out again was a little bit disheartening.
Yeah, it was. He's, we love Dobbins. He was probably our 102 running back in that draft class after Jonathan Taylor. I'm saying running back because I can't remember wide receivers and quarterbacks off the top of my head right now.
I think CD was in that same draft and it was a Burrow and Tua. So I think a lot of people still had him as their 101 anyway, even with Tua and Burrow, right? So.
Yeah. Oh man. Long
time ago.
Feels like a long time ago.
2 years.
Thank you.
Putting your order in, mate, are you? Getting the missus to run you around some...
Huh? I can't get up and get my own beer.
Got the beer wench.
Hardly. Come on, man.
What are you drinking? Drinks of the pod.
Drinks the what is this one? This is the quadruple. Let me show the quadruple. Oh shit. This beer's 14%. I asked her to get me another beer. The beer waste didn't do a good job. Oh well. It'll have to do.
Just be thankful that you got something delivered to you.
I asked for I've got a lemon. The other beer I was drinking was like a lemon meringue pie sour beer. I asked for one of those, but this is what I have. So it's like a red IPA, and it's delicious, but it's 14% alcohol.
Could get a bit loose.
Anyway,
before the end of this, I might send some trays out.
It'd be a good time, my friend. It'd be a good time.
I got a Chianti, a little Chianti. So,
from Tuscany.
Keeping it.
Love Tuscany. Been there on a few occasions. Have you ever been to Tuscany?
No, this one's it's not from Tuscany. This one's from Audi.
If it's a Chianti, it's from Tuscany.
It's the region. Yeah, I know, mate. I know. I'm just having a laugh. No, never been to Tuscany. I went to Europe, but I didn't go to that part of Europe. Went to the UK,
Hey,
Scotland.
Audi
Scotland,
makes some good
Northern
beer. Audi makes some good wines.
They're
One of
not
their
bad.
cheap
Eh?
wines.
It's not
Yeah.
not bad. Yeah, not bad at all.
And we'll direct you to our wine channel later on. But we better get back to football. Mike Williams out on bye this week, though. Maybe, huh?
Yeah, he might be out longer. They're talking about whether he goes in IR or not. So if he does go in IR, the bye won't count. So it could be a long IR. Hopefully not. But yeah, Keenan Allen out, Mike Williams potentially out. I think I just dropped DeAndre Carter in one league. Probably not a good move, but not looking good for her. But it's just a mess, isn't it, mate? This fantasy season is good if you play IDP, I guess. But in terms of offenses, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and that's about it.
Look,
Burrow's come back,
he was having a great season as well. Look, it's a battle of attrition.
Yeah,
Fantasy football. We say it over and over again. It's tough, right?
Yeah, I think this year it feels a bit tough too because we skated pretty much through the first 6 weeks. We had Lance, we had Javonte, but that was until I can remember. And then just this week it just snuck up and hit us.
And I didn't even know Debo was out. Debo's out.
Yeah, just saw a headline that he's potentially out as well, unlikely to play. So that's another one for you. So yeah, really losing stars all over the shop, and then Ryan Tannehill possibly.
And Tannehill's in a boot, even though he was only out one play in the game.
Yeah, he came back in, and they're talking about Willis getting more involved, even if Tannehill comes back. So it's not a done deal that he's out, but
yeah,
they did win. They did win, right?
What's that put their record at?
I had it up before.
I feel really bad for Tannehill. People look. I love Malik Willis. You know that, right? Malik Willis fan, truther, bash the table for Malik Willis. I think what Ryan Tannehill has been doing, minus AJ Brown and even Treylon Burks being injured, at 4-2, it's nothing short of remarkable.
Good ordinary on the field, but they're winning, right? That's all you can ask for, really. I mean, that's the main thing. Who wants to look pretty and lose? You'd rather play ugly and win.
Well,
this time
you
year,
and
right?
the dynasty rosters, but
Boom.
boom. But
yeah,
look, I think he's
you
played really well. I think he's played, as well as can be expected. When there's nothing in that receiving corps, who's their top wide receiver? Robert Woods. He's thrown. He's
fair play.
Like
that's
he's done nothing.
You probably say the same for Mac Jones too. He hasn't got Jacoby Myers.
But with Mac Jones, we can point to Bailey Zappi playing a lot better.
Except for this week. Looked a bit ordinary this week, but a bit of a weird one there. But yeah, they're winning, right? That's the difference. Tannehill's winning, so if you're winning, it'd be hard to bench him. But
people don't want to hear this, but Bailey Zappi does not have the arm strength to be a functional every week NFL quarterback.
Did throw 65 touchdowns, and he threw a couple of bombs. I think one was a blown coverage. So yeah, I don't know if the team rallied around him or it was just someone they hadn't scouted. The offense maybe the Bears hadn't scouted him because the first half he just came in through 2 touchdowns, consecutive starts, but second half maybe they just made some adjustments and he was a different quarterback. But you could be right there. You could be right.
So look, we've talked about these players and injuries. We've been a bit nonchalant. My fault. So Breece Hall, I just traded for Breece Hall right literally before we started this pod, Bruce Hall for Travis Etienne and a 2023 second. Not that will be a late second in a 14-team league, though the league is IDP. Right. So, I mean, probably pretty much it probably balances out really to your standard 12-team offense league, right? With
Yeah, probably.
IDP.
Yeah, 50-50 of that. Not really many IDPs going in that second round unless you're Micah Parsons, and I wouldn't take him anyway. But
me personally, I might take Will Anderson in a few in leagues where I've got multiple firsts.
Yeah, right.
Right, but otherwise, I'm not touching the IDP in round one. Not,
Yeah, look, I think we were chatting about this trade, this potential trade before you started, right? And it seems like you should really have to give back that second, but I think we talked about last year. You don't always have to squeeze every single bit of juice out of one of these trades. If something happens to ETN next week, you'll be absolutely kicking yourself. You didn't make the trade. You didn't that trade. So you just think you got a Hall. He's probably close enough to the RB one next year or RB2, right? Like RB3 probably his floor.
I'm looking at my team in this league, and I'm thinking that I'll try to compete next year, right? Between my roster and my draft picks, but my real window is 2024. And what do I want on my team? Do I want a 24-year-old Brees Hall, or do I want a 26-year-old Travis Etienne? Who I'm looking at him at 26 years old, and I'm like, I feel like I've got to kind of trade him.
Had an injury as well, too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I guess the only sort of pause you'd have is just because they traded James Robinson. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be a bell cow. Hasty's there. I like Hasty. I think he's a little bit underrated. I know Waldman had some good raps on him, and with limited time he's looked pretty good running the ball. So yeah,
he's been a promising player.
Yeah, right. I think he has. So I think that's fair enough. Like I said, you'd like them to give the second back, but it's close enough to get that. And he is an out-and-out superstar, right? You're getting 10 targets, 11 targets, 14 targets. How many running backs get that? Not many. A real difference maker.
And, even though this particular – and in a potential points league, honestly, I wouldn't have even thought about it. This league's not potential points. Potential points league, I would have smashed it just to lose those just to lose the potential points and increase my Bijan chances. I mean, this does increase my chances of a higher pick, not as much as in potential points. But now I've gone from starting Travis Etienne, who's at RB1, to starting. I've only got Sonny Michel left in that league, so it could help my draft position. It could be the difference between getting, Bijan and not getting Bijan.
Yeah, or Stroud.
And you've got to think it. Right? Yeah, you've got to take that into consideration, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think like that second, that's probably not enough to move up a spot next year. If someone's on the clock and you're trying to get that player, it's probably not going to be enough if you're talking about one of these top echelon guys.
That late second probably isn't enough to jump from. Like, to me, there's a 3-player tier in Superflex right now: Bijan, Stroud, Young.
Bryce Young, yeah.
Is that fair?
Fair enough.
Right now, right? I don't think that second would get you from 104 to 103.
No, it's like this year, right? If you had, it's probably Hall and then a tier break. You couldn't go from Walker to Hall with that second, right? It's just
no.
It wasn't enough.
You couldn't have at the time.
You had to give it. Yeah, you couldn't have. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's fair enough. It's a good point to consider.
Yeah.
Who do you want straight up, Hall or Walker?
In a vacuum, not thinking about any injuries and not thinking about this season, seeing the targets and the passes Brees Hall catches, I feel like it's still got to be Brees Hall. Is that crazy?
No, that's fine. I think he's only he got 2 receptions and 3 receptions both games. He's balled out, Walker.
But man,
23
he's good
carries,
running the
21
ball.
carries. He looks
He's
great.
it is beautiful watching him run the football.
Yeah, he's looked dominant, and he's in a team that's going to run the ball. But I guess the Jets are doing the same too. They've got that great O line. I put it on Twitter. I think it was 65 Walker, 35 Hall.
If I was in contention, I would definitely trade Walker for Hall. Walker for Hall, just the way Walker's played, and the fact that he's also a full 2 years younger than ATN. I'd probably want something back on top of
Walker.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. No, I'm with you. You know, I think that's a good call. And then I got an offer of Diggs for Hall in one league, but it was retracted before I could even smash no. I tried to smash hell no, but it got retracted. So
if I was competing though, it would be tough. Like, are you competing in that league?
Yeah, I am competing in that league, but it's still a fair bit to play out, and I've got a couple of easy possibly wins up my sleeve. I think I'm going first or second in that league. I think you're first. I'm second. You're undefeated.
Is this in Kraken?
Kraken, yeah, it's in Kraken. I do like Diggs, but he's 30 next year. You know, he's.
Remember when you had Diggs and then you traded him for Adele Beckham and then you got back to nothing?
Don't know what you're talking about. I would never do such a thing. Huh? Never do such a thing.
Really?
It all worked out for me. I won the league, so it all worked out. It was just part of my master plan to lose a lot of value and somehow win the league. No, I do remember that. Look, it wasn't a terrible trade, but he's just got such a high ceiling. Hall, getting those receptions, it's just, and he looks so great. He's just, for me, he hasn't lost that much value. So I probably should sell him, but I've got a real hard time, taking anything for him really, because you just got to lose so much value. So I should probably push the chips and try and win the league again, but I didn't.
Guess who's just won Sam Ellinger in Kraken?
Yours truly, Benny.
Right. When the spot, and just in time, because he did not have a second quarterback to start in Superflex. I can't believe actually. Yeah. And with a pretty fucking shit bid too. Like, look, I bid my max 325, but there were a lot of people in that league that bid more than me, that had more dollars to bid than me.
I think we're talking about off air too, right? Like sometimes it's not about
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams had more fab than me to bid on him, and none of them did it.
Yeah, I had less than that.
Did you bid on him?
Yeah, I did bid on him. But I didn't. Well, I had $200, so I knew I was going to get him.
Did you max bid? Just out of curiosity.
No,
doesn't matter now.
I max bid in Duff League because I knew I could get him, so I full max 100 bid. Yeah. I won him that league. I think another league I went 650 out of 1,000. Got him there. But sometimes it's just not about what you want to do, right? It's chess. It's you seeing what your opponent wants to do and stopping him doing what he wants to do, right? So even if you've got 6 quarterbacks, you still want to get that starting quarterback, even if it keeps it away from your opponent.
Yeah. Well, look, when it comes to quarterbacks they've come out and they said, we're going to start him the rest of the year. I mean, that's what they said. And I'll take a chance on him just in case lightning in a bottle cap, happens, and he's a man long term, just in case.
I guess the only caveat in that league is you can cash out your fab. Right, you can buy a first or buy a second if you keep it.
Yeah, but you got to keep it for like 3 years to get a pick that really matters.
Yeah, or trade.
Or trade for more. Yeah.
Fab. Yeah, but yeah, look, really, you just like I said, you're trying to stop someone else getting it sometimes too. So, And if he does play well, you might get a third or a second for him anyway, right?
Yeah.
Or a win. Could carry you to a win.
Yeah, maybe that's enough.
Can't be
Maybe
worse
he
than
makes
that.
a difference.
Imagine being a Colts fan. You'd just be hating your life, wouldn't you? You'd just be Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, wasting the O-line, wasting Jonathan Taylor, forever in the Patriots' shadows.
But and you look at the rest of their roster, and that's why I could see them making the kind of trade that the 49ers made to get Trey Lance. They could make that kind of trade to get a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. I could see them doing that kind of trade. It would make sense considering that roster.
I think when they signed Wentz, I think I called them. I said, "Look, they're a complete team. They're going to make the playoffs." And then when Ryan came in, I thought he'd be good too. Just hasn't worked out, whether it's injury or not. Just hasn't. So it'd probably make sense for them to do that because they're pretty good on defense, and they got that dominant O line. Just haven't had that last piece at quarterback. So it makes sense for them to. I'm just wanting to adjust up a bit there with the Colts. It'd make sense for them to make that move.
100%.
Trade for Mac Jones.
So what else? What other players do you have on here tonight, sir? You've got Dobbins or Ramondre Stevenson. You can't trade Ramondre Stevenson for Dobbins right now. If you're in the midst of the season, you're competing. It's not a trade you can do, surely.
No, so I think since week 3, when he became close to the starter, week 3 to week 7, he's the RB3 of the year. And even from the first 7 weeks, he's the RB8. So he's an RB1. A little bit underrated, I feel, because he just looks so good catching the ball out of the backfield. Looks so good within his hand. And Harris, he had a couple of full practices last week, and he hardly got a sniff of the ball. Ramondre was the bell cow there. So yeah, you probably want something back, right? If you're given Ramondre, you probably want Dobbins and a fair bit, really.
Look, you'd want something decent on top, right? I don't know if it'd be a first, but it'd be a substantial piece. I mean, even if Harris is healthy, they're splitting the carries and Stevenson's getting the targets.
Yeah,
right? Is that fair?
That's fair, and then they're not paying Harris. There's no way Belichick's paying Harris next year. Like some teams do it, but no. Bill won't. He might draft someone else again, but he's not. Harris is not coming back. It'll be Ramondre. So,
I mean, yeah, he was only 11 for 39 this week, but he got a touchdown, and he got 8 receptions for 59 yards. He's caught 25 of 29 targets. Like,
yeah, he's a bit underrated. He's falling underrated a little bit. I think he's a good buy now candidate if you got someone who's maybe.
What would you pay for him?
Yeah,
would you pay 23 first if you're a contender?
Yeah, I would. Yep, you can't get him for less than that. You can't get him for a second. So I think if I'm a contender, and I want to win, I'd happily pay that late first, and he could win you the chip. Doesn't get injured, touch wood, but he's big back. Look great. It's probably going to be an outlet for whichever quarterback takes the field there, whether it's Jones or Zappi. Jones is just sort of struggling a bit, so he'll probably be looking for him a fair bit out of the backfield. So yeah, I think 23 first is what you're going to need to get him, and it's it's an okay price. You're not giving an early one, right? But if it's 10, 11, 12, what about you? What would you give a first for him if you're going to win?
If it was in that 110 to 112, I probably would. I think next year's probably going to be his biggest year, and I might try to sell off the back of that year. Harris comes, they've got strong. Maybe they draft another rookie. I think he gets the majority of the work next year, and maybe that's when I try to cash out.
Yeah, I like that. I like that move.
Right. But if I was really confident my pick was in that 110 to 112 range, I would trade it for him, the way that he's playing and the points that he's producing right now.
You can't get him for 2 seconds, right? Like you'd be crazy to sell him for, I think.
Yeah, no, there's no way. It's not going to happen. Marlon Mack on the Broncos. You think that Marlon Mack on the Broncos is something that you want to concern yourself with?
I don't know. Nuno loves himself a bit of Marlon Mack. Gordon is not playing the best. Mike Burns.
Dynasty Diamonds, baby. Dynasty Diamonds.
Dynasty Diamonds. Burns on IR. He's behind Taylor at the Colts and got that injury. So look at Foreman. He just rocked up over 100 yards and 23 points. So you never know. It's worth a sneaky out if you can get him. It's all about depth, right? We're not talking about starter, but if he's your RB flex 4 or something, could be a league winner.
I got one thing to say to that.
Regret is my constant companion. Do not let it become yours.
Love it.
Nice.
All right. So you've got some Hall or Walker. Whew. Oh, that's hard, man. Why would you do that to somebody? Hall. Like long-term Hall, but if I was competing and I could get Walker for Hall, you've got to do that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a win-win either way. If you're rebuilding, you're Hall, and if you're competing, Walker.
Hall or ATN. I love ATN. I think he's looked great the last 3 weeks. I'm super curious to see how he goes with a full workload. I've now cashed out all 3 shares I've had. But Hall is a full 2 years younger.
If you had the depth, you could even.
And that's
do
like
that
10 years in running back years, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good point. Yep. Yeah, I think if you had the depth, you could even sell ETN for Hall and see how you go, because if you do get a couple more injuries, you can always move Hall towards the end of the year.
And Hall or Diggs. I mean, Diggs is having a huge season, man.
He's 30. I think we talked about it earlier. He's 30 next year, right, Diggs? So, for me, it's still Hall. But
look, it's still Hall from a value standpoint, absolutely. But I mean, the aim of the game is to win fantasy football leagues.
The aim of the game is to win. I think maybe towards the end of the
he's
year,
having a huge year. Like, he's having the kind of year where if you win, right? Normally you win that place for your league somewhere in the vicinity of, 3 to 5 years, depending on the payout structure, right?
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really play for that, right? We just play for fun. But the victory is what you're going for, right? Who cares if you got Javonte and Hall and Walker and everyone on your bench, and you draft and Bijan and all that sort of stuff. Who cares about that? It looks good, but you want to win, right?
The way plays and ACLs lately, like all these guys have really taken, like they've come back, and it's taken a full season for them to kind of get right again, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Saquon was last year, and you look at him this year, and he's just an animal. And I mean, why wouldn't it be any different for Hall? Why wouldn't it be any different for the Javonte? Like, 2024 is when these guys hit their stride again.
Fair enough.
Can you really do that one full year hold if you're a contender when you've got a wide receiver, like Stefan Diggs, who is just playing out of his mind?
Well, the thing is, you don't need to do it now. You know what I mean? Like, you can hold off on that.
No, if you don't need to do it, you don't do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. If you lost a couple of players,
but
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are really in a position where they don't need to do that? Not many.
You're pretty good if you don't need to start digs, right? You're doing
Correct.
something right.
And so much of it depends on the structure of the league as well. Like you and I, we play in a lot of leagues where it's just 1-1-1-1-1 and the rest is flex.
As it should be. Yeah, but some of them you got to start those 3 wide receivers, right? So
some you got to start 2 or 3 wide receivers. Some you got to start 2 running backs. Some leagues you got to start 11 or 12 players.
Some you got to start
and
2
then
tight
it doesn't
ends.
even matter if it's 1-1-1-1-1 because you just need everybody you can get.
Need everyone. Yep. Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, it does. The format does matter. It's just too much of a value bump for me to pull the trigger now, but maybe towards the end of the year I might revisit it again if it's still there.
If it's just winning the league and like right now he's on track for 139 receptions for 849 yards and 70. That's huge, man. Man.
It's 30 next year though. He's DeAndre Hopkins next year. He's Julio Jones next year. So
look, you're making this trade understanding that from a value point, you're losing on value, but you're not necessarily losing on production.
You're not losing on production this year. No, definitely you're not.
But even over the next 3 or 4 years, you might be fine.
You're probably fine the next couple of years, right? Next year or 2, and then could fall off quickly though.
And Matt Ryan out the rest of the year.
We think we chatted about that earlier.
Did we?
Ryan's out rest of the season. Ellinger's in. Yeah, you were talking about your max bids for him. I thought we talked about it, but yeah, they're saying it's injury based, right?
So what is the max bid you would do for Ellinger?
I'd bid on my fab.
I've bid all my fat up on him in a few leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, the Duff Beard League, I bid on my fab. I won him, which is good. Because it is Superflex, right? And it's week 8, so there's not much left. You know, if it's a redraft league, maybe it's different. You don't max bid, but when you got these squads of 30 dynasty players, there's not much out there, right? Like maybe early on there might be 1 or 2 guys that snuck under the radar that you go on, but come week 8, 9, and 10, there's DeAndre Carter if you're lucky. It's pretty ugly.
It gets ugly. But you know what? Compared to us, everything's ugly because we're pretty.
It's true. It's no lie. No lie detected.
Is Bijan Robinson the Dynasty RB1 already? You know what? I think he is.
I think he is. I think the injury to Hall is knocked down the question out, whether it was or not. You probably could have that question if Hall had stayed healthy all year. He might not be, but the only question is, can he stay healthy? If Bijan stays healthy, he'll be locked in as the RB1. But been a bit of a fall from grace for It's been a fall from grace from Taylor, hasn't it? Like he's still up there, but hasn't looked great.
Look, you've got to worry about any RB1 who isn't an above average pass catcher. He catches passes fine, but he's not elite. I'm not going to go on about it because I've gone on about it in previous years, but I feel the Colts have to be winning for him to be the RB1. He needs to be able to get the ball and put games away. And if the Colts aren't in a position to do that, then he's not the RB1.
Fair enough.
Is Jameer Gibbs the RB2?
Look, I'm not massive on him. I haven't seen a lot of him. I know some people are. He's not for me. I think Hall's still there with Taylor. I think it's a question between those 2 for now. But come draft time next year, Could be. Is he yours?
He's top 5 for me for sure.
It's been ugly. It's been ugly running back. Swift, injured. ETN, no Fred
It's
ETN.
not that
so
it's ugly. It's that it's just you hate pulling the
ugly,
trigger
bro.
on any of them because
It's
you know
ugly.
they've got this 5-year, 6-year career window, right? And if you pull like they lose a year due to injury, that's 20% of their value, just nothing.
Yeah, at least, yeah. What was Barkley
At a
worth?
minimum.
Before he came back, you get it. You know, people would give him away. Now he's come good, but you can see how quickly.
But even now he's
he was
come
such
good.
a superstar, right?
Like before he had that bad year, before he got hurt, he was up there in Superflex value with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
Right?
he was same as Bruce Hall, right? Catching
Now-
passes everywhere, exploding.
Now you
probably
could
better
offer
athlete than
two.
Hall.
You could offer 2 Saquon Barkleys, and for Patrick Mahomes, someone's probably not going to accept it.
No, they're probably not. Not for an older running back. So yeah,
All the
Yeah,
injuries
I
have
reckon it's-
impacted the running backs immensely.
it's ugly, man. I'm telling you, he's not mixing and Josh Jacobs, Sanders.
Well, I put him up for sale in Street Fighter League, and I got a first, a second, a third, and a fourth. I couldn't get 2 firsts for him. It is what
Saquon?
it is.
Yeah, that's probably a fair price, right? Like,
It's as fair as I was going to get. Like you could probably get, you're not going to get 2 firsts for him. It's just it is what it is. And you love his talent, but running backs come from nowhere as well, and that also limits the value of the top end guys. Like you've got your Ramon Stevensons who come from nowhere. Josh Jacobs is having a massive year. Miles Sanders having a massive year. All guys you could have bought cheap, right?
yeah. And what
Who's
happens
doing
if
that?
Barkley
What?
does get injured too, right? Like you're just taking that value loss as well. So
Like
Yeah.
if Barkley's a 25-year-old running back, if he loses a year, that's a massive percentage of what's left of his career. Whereas
Especially when
if
you say that. You said that history too, right? Like, yeah.
Exactly. If a 25-year-old wide receiver loses that year, he's probably got several left.
He's fine.
Yeah. Whereas
can wait
Barkley,
for
that
him.
might be one of the 3 or 4 that he's got left. So
Yeah,
that makes a
good luck.
huge difference.
Good luck selling a 28-year-old running back, right? Like,
It's just
no
so
one's buying
hard.
that. Yeah.
So hard. Jimmy G, bad play making Lance look better. Look, Jimmy G is an average quarterback. He's always been an average quarterback. He'll die an average quarterback. Look, I look at Trey Lance. I look at Justin Fields and the way he's played the last couple of weeks, and just imagine him in that 49ers offense, and I get sad.
Yeah, look, I think it could be Lance next year, right? That could be Lance next year, looking even better than Fields. I just think there's that. Yeah.
Look, you finish your sentence.
No, I was just going to say there's just that narrative that, there's one clip going around Twitter where Jimmy G threw his first touchdown when he came back and they're all high-fiving him all over him and everything. And people were just losing their heads. He come back, but it seems that's all forgotten about now that he's been pretty ordinary on the field. So you don't want to see these injuries, but there could have been that controversy there that maybe it should have been Jimmy's G's team and they love him in their room and whatnot. But now there's no question to me now that's out the door. That's horses bolted.
All you're seeing right now is the reason the 49ers made that trade for Trey Lance. That's all you're seeing.
Yeah, if they win, right, it's not because of it's Jimmy. It's he's not going to lose the game for him, but he's not going to win it for him.
No, he's just not.
Yeah.
He's an average quarterback, and average quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. Not anymore. Not in the passing era. Trey Diffler, God, Rest his soul. He's still alive. Sorry,
He's still
Ken.
alive, yeah.
Um,
You buried him already, mate.
That's not going to happen anymore. It's just not going to happen.
If there's any side that can do it,
it's not the way the game's played.
If there's any side that can do it, it'd probably be that side because they do look so good and they've just got CMC, but he's not. Yeah, he's not going to be the reason why they do if they do win. It's hard to if you're going up against Joe Barra or Patrick Mahomes as they did, right? It's hard to win if you're not scoring points.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Not really sure what to add for that. Like, I'm even more. I'm actually really excited for Trey Lance now that they've got McCaffrey. Is that like? I don't know. Maybe it's my naivety, but I'm psyched for it.
Why? It's a good thing. Can't be a bad thing, right? Like maybe he's not throwing. He's throwing shorter passes and whatnot. He's probably got a bit of a safer future there, haven't you? If you've got an out-and-out superstar running back, can't hurt. If you've got a
guy who's a superstar running back and can be a superstar slot receiver.
Yeah, and you got to account for him when him and Lance when you're scheming, right? So he's probably going to have some players open. Either way.
100. Like, just agree with you 1,000%. And look, before we go, I just had to talk about Justin Fields and how he's played the last 3-4 weeks. The way he's played the last 3 or 4 weeks is why you took him in the second round, is the fact that he can finish as that QB1 whilst he's developing, he's passing and stinking it up in the box score. Like, he hasn't sunk it up in the box score compared to how he was those first few weeks. But he's been a lot better lately. And he's been a QB1 every week. Last 3 or 4 weeks. And that's why he was going where he was going. That's why he's got the potential that he has, because he's going to give you those points whilst he's developing. And he's going to get another season. If people are still worried about Justin Fields, go out and buy Justin Fields, because the Bears are not going to draft another rookie quarterback and drop them into that infrastructure. They're going to take the extra second round pick they got from the Khalil Mack trade. They're going to take their first round pick. They're going to take their millions of dollars, like league leading cap space, and they're going to basically do their version of what the Dolphins did this year with Tua and surround him with talent.
And
maybe they won't get.
They probably got a better quarterback too, as well, to build around.
Yeah, I mean, Tua. I think Fields has more tools than Tua. They may not get a wide receiver as elite as Tyreek Hill, because frankly, how many receivers are as special as Tyreek Hill? I don't think there's many. But if you can get a legit number one receiver, and then everybody moves down a peg in the totem pole, and a couple of more offensive line, like that, then that offense is a lot better. He's going to get another year, because there's no way they drop another rookie quarterback into that infrastructure. It just doesn't happen. That would be insane. What can I do on the podcast live if they do that? That is, I don't know.
You can streak down Melbourne somewhere.
I can't do that on the podcast. I truly don't think it's going to happen. Do you think it's going to happen?
No, look, I didn't think it was even at the start of the year. I think a couple of these were in. I was saying I still believe. I just think it might be, and I think on there I said too, I think it might be next year until he comes good. But he's come good earlier than that. And he did look so good against the Patriots. He just had that a little bit of magic, a little bit of specialness that, like there was one where Wise had him. He was dead to rights. He had him. He was there. And he was just silky. He just a step and a hop and he was gone. And it was 3rd and 14. He ran for 20
How many quarterbacks in the league can do that?
Yeah, maybe
5
1
or
or 2.
6.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, it's like he looked great, and then you saw him take that punishment too in the college football playoffs. He got absolutely belted and just got up and played. So he's tough as well. Yeah, he seems to have it all. It's just that organization, how they set it up that was the only question.
Yeah. Power up. Like, I almost think that, like, this year for him, right, it's been so tough that next year's going to feel like easy mode.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. I think that's why Tomlin dropped Pickett in. Flex him, mate. Flex him. Get those gains.
17 inches,
Yes.
baby. 17
Get those
inches.
gains. I think that's why Tomlin put Pickett in. People saying, "Oh, why would you bring him in against the hardest stretch of teams he's going to face?" But there is something to be said for that. Just chuck him in and let him get some resilience, and just take that punishment, and maybe the game slows down when you get back to there's no easy games in the NFL, right? You can't just cut these guys in. It's just you're either you're going to make it or you're not. So something to be said for that.
I'm more excited for him than I was weeks ago. I feel really strongly he's going to get one more season, and if he gets that one more season, and they haven't
He'll get it. Yeah.
destroyed him this season, I think he's going to ball out. I really, really do. Buy him low. If people are doubting him, go and get him. If you're not competing, go and get him. Or if he could be your quarterback 3, go get him. Like, just do it.
It's probably a little bit late now, right? Like, you had that opportunity to get him, but we do talk about buying high, and he's probably a buy high candidate, right? Like, he's still not paying squillions for him. There still are some question marks around him, but I think you brought him in the league a couple of weeks ago, right? That was probably the move to make, I think.
Look, if you're a contending team and you can get him for your late first plus a small piece, I think you do that all day of the week.
I think you get him if you're a contender and you need a third QB. First and second is fine. I'd pay that.
Every day. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, mate. I think we're done. I think we've wrapped it all up. Just looking forward to week 8.
Well, I hope the one person who watched this stream appreciated the effort I put into this new overlay.
You're claiming it
and
now,
Nino, huh?
You're claiming it now,
yeah? I did the work. Nino, if you want an
Nice.
overlay, reach out to me. I'll give you a cuddle and an overlay.
Nice.
All right. Nothing else to say?
Speechless, mate.
All right, we're out.